Earlier this year, Land Rover India had announced plans, their intent to introduce the iconic Defender model in India. Of course, with the delays due to the pandemic, well, the car didn't come down earlier, but it's finally here. It's arrived in our shores. This is the Land Rover 110, the Defender 110, and the 110 essentially denotes the length of the wheelbase, which in this case, or rather when the Defender originally came out, was supposed to be 110 inches. But now, of course, it still retains that. It's just a little longer than the 110. This is about 118 inches in length, but still the 110 stays. The other variant that's coming to India as well, that Land Rover will be introducing in India, is the Defender 90, which is the shorter wheelbase version. Now this, of course, is the 5-door version. You can clearly see there are 2 doors on either side of the car, and of course the boot. But the shorter wheelbase version will be the 3-door version with 2 doors and the tailgate for that matter. Overall, this is a fairly sporty and rugged looking, very masculine looking SUV. The Defender model came up in 1983. That was when Land Rover introduced this as a recreational vehicle for its consumers who wanted something a little more luxurious, a little more premium than what was already being sold in by Land Rover in international markets. The Defender, of course, now has gone significantly over and above where luxury is concerned. It's, again, like I said, on the exterior, there are all the contemporary elements that it's got. I love the look of the new grille element out here with the LED headlamps and the driving lamps. Looks fairly rugged at the front end itself. Moving on to the sides, again, characteristic or other, some very similar touches to what you would see in the Range Rover as well, which is supposed to be the more premium luxury brand from Land Rover as well. Nonetheless, you see that clean finish, very, very smooth, strong, horizontal lines, the shoulder line, the waistline, all of these extremely, there are no sweeps, there are no curves. It's all very angular, rather very straight line. Still looks fairly handsome, very attractive. Again, one of the characteristics of the Defender was the rear window elements, which have stayed on since the original Defender came out in 1983. It's been one of the signature design elements on the Defender. Now, of course, the Defender's abilities were off-road, and that's where it struck a chord amongst most people, because not only was it comfortable and luxurious inside, but it also had all the abilities that a traditional Land Rover was offering in its products at that point in time, and continues to do so even today. These cars are meant to go off-road in style, and the new Defender, the Defender 110, carries on with that legacy. Again, this right now sits on Goodyear Wrangler tires, and these are 255/60, and these are 20-inch wheels and tires. Now, these are an 80 pattern, which means again this will be able to go almost every terrain. Hardcore off-roaders, you're never going to take something of this sort, hardcore off-roading in any case in this country, but these tires are good enough to get you almost anywhere that you would want to go. It's a fairly Spartan cabin, very nicely executed. Again, the straight line themes continue inside this interior as well. You can see it again in the line of the dashboard, in the lines of the center console, even on the steering wheel for that matter. It's a very nice transformer-ish kind of a look, looks fairly Lego-like for that matter, but it's a very impressive design and finish that they have applied to the Defender. Quite a few practical and innovative touches, like this small space out here where you can store your phone, and it's got a charging point, a USB charging point. So pretty innovative out there. You've got a cubby hole over here on either side of the dashboard. You've got lots of storage spaces all over. The center console, again, it's vacant at the bottom, so you can put in certain larger elements in here. You've also got storage spaces in here, and of course cup holders right there. So plenty of storage spaces. I'm just going to quickly switch on the car, and I'll take you to the engine a little later, but this is a full-time four-wheel drive SUV, again with the terrain response too. That's the latest generation of terrain response that Land Rover has to offer on their SUVs. There's a host of things that is capable of doing, lots of off-road equipment in addition. Now, principally, what has changed also is this new infotainment screen. It's not a large element, but it looks very impressive. Clarity is fantastic. The colors are brilliant. Looks very premium for that matter. Land Rover continues to offer its rear view mirror, which also converts into a screen. This has got a camera mounted at the rear, and of course that displays the image or whatever is happening on the road on the screen right here on this rear view mirror. We've seen this previously on the Discovery Sport, which you saw just last month, but again the Defender gets the same feature again. Panoramic sunroof extending from the front all the way up to the rear behind. This is 5 seats right here, and of course a fairly large storage space. Quite impressive overall. Fit and finish is just brilliant, like any other Land Rover or Range Rover for that matter. So it feels very premium, it feels well built. I like the quality of the plastics also, soft touch plastics, especially on the dashboard, the upper portion of the dashboard out here. Here leather finish on this, leather finish on the storage compartments and the seats. Again, fantastic fit and finish and the feel to it. This certainly feels like you'd want to take intercontinental journey on, though I'm not sure at 70 lakhs ex-showroom how many people are actually going to go out and do that intercontinental journey. The Defender's legacy, of course, has always been the fact that it traveled around the world, that most of its owners use the Defender to go around the world. There have been quite a few Defenders in India as well, northeast of India for that matter. There are still plenty of Defenders in operation right there. But this current Defender, well, it's certainly not in easy access, at least not affordable access to a lot of people. Goes fairly up the price ladder. 70 lakhs initially for the 90, and then going up to about 76 lakhs for the 110, and upwards, going all the way up to about 87 lakhs ex-showroom for the 110, depending on the variant and the trim level that you select. There are 5 variants available in the Defender range, both on the 90 and the 110. So essentially there isn't much of a difference between the 90 or the 110. They get similar levels of equipment, and interiors are all the same. The only difference between the two is of course in the length of the wheelbase. Off-road equipment, interior features, almost everything is still the same. The one difference that the 110 gets over the 90 is of course air suspension. That's the only critical or the largest, most significant difference between the 110 and the 190. So this is the 2-litre petrol engine. You've got about 300 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque, which is more than enough to do almost any job, whether it's on-road or off-road for that matter. This is of course mated to an automatic transmission, and then there's also the 4x4 drivetrain, full-time 4x4 drive drivetrain, along with the terrain response 2 system. Here's what I do like. They've got a grab handle which you can utilize to step into the rear seat. Again, very clever features. You've got a charging point right there on the rear seat. You've got an armrest when there aren't 3 people seated in the rear bench. The seat was adjusted to my position, and as you can see, there's plenty of space again for whoever's sitting here in this rear bench. All the controls, you've got additional charging points out here, and the controls for all the AC functions are available right here on these knobs. 2 vents right available over here. In addition, the 110 will be offered with the state-of-the-art Meridian sound system, which Range Rover and Land Rover also offer in some of their other models. What I do like about this is that there are lots of areas where sunlight is allowed to penetrate this cabin, which gives it that sense of roominess, gives it that sense of space, airiness, which is a very, very impressive design element. If you look at the roof over here, you've got small porticos that allow light to filter into the cabin on either side, apart from just the sunroof. There are windows, again, lots of area out here, in fact, including the small cut window right there. At the rear, we have the spare wheel, which is mounted on the tailgate. And this opens sideways, and there you can see the boot. Enormous boot space with everything that you need to jack up the wheel right under there. solidly built, feels good. Very impressive and handsome rear end. I do like the fact that you get a full-size spare tire with the Defender. That's very impressive because not a lot of manufacturers that offer a product in this category give you a full-size spare. Most of them come with the space saver, but the full-size spare makes a lot of sense for a vehicle of this order. Now this Defender that I've been showing you, this is of course the 110 SE. That's the third variant that's available in the entire Defender lineup, but the top of the line variant, which is the first edition, is the one right here. If you look at this, it's got this beautiful green shade on it. What I do like is that a lot of the elements, a lot of the panels are color coded accordingly. So while you've got the A pillar, which has the similar shade, it's got this mirror black finish on the mirrors and the mirror bolsters there. The B pillar is again black, it's got that piano black finish, but right here the C pillar elements, of course, they're color coded as well to match the body color, the panels. Now the very important differentiator in this is at the rear. The first edition gets 2 more jump seats at the rear. There's a third bench in the first edition. Now I like the way Land Rover has thought about some of these elements. This is a cover so that once you put your luggage or put whatever you need to put into the boot, you can simply apply this cover on, and that hides everything from view. I also like the way it's been clipped on. If you come closer, and it's got simple elastic clip-ons. They're quite nicely finished, and they hook up. And of course, here's the third bench. This is principally for kids. That's the headrest. This folds down. I do like the fact that you've got the blower speed controls right here. You've got a vent for that third row. You've got charging points in here. You've got another 230 volt socket right here for any other electric equipment that you would need to charge your laptop or your cameras. You've got a 2-pin socket right there. You've got cup holders here on either side. Of course, there are 2 seats if you take a look. That means 2 kids, of course, could sit in there. It's not the most comfortable, there's not the most amount of space in there, but nonetheless, it's still value if you've got a fairly large family or you've got more people that need to be placed in there. So let me just see access into those rear seats. Now that third row is optional equipment. It's not standard equipment. You can opt for a third bench, but access is through the front. You essentially, well, that's access. So ideally, I'm not going to try it, not with my knee, but essentially kids could very easily clamber into that space. And of course, you can adjust the amount of knee room that would be available to them. It's got an adjuster below the seat to push the seats forward or behind. In addition, there's a host of equipment, optional equipment that is further available on the first edition, not entirely visible right now. You can also customize your first edition, or for that matter any of the other Defenders as well, depending on what you would require. First edition gets a different set of alloys as well. Again, the same Wrangler spec, 20-inch wheels and tires, and a host of colors that you can choose from. So that is the Defender first edition. So this in a nutshell is the Defender 110. Bookings are open, and of course car deliveries will begin pretty soon. There have been certain delays with the 90, of course, and that will come out later in 2020 or in the first quarter of 2021. But for now, we've got just the 110 on sale in India.